Thank you to Representative Jeff Denham and candidate Michael Eggman for joining us at our editorial board and candidate forum today. My name is Joe Kieta, and I'm the editor of The Bee. Joining us today is reporter Nan Austin, columnist Jeff Jardine, opinions page editor Mike Dunbar, and our visiting editors, John Logan, Dr. Priti Modi, and Kathleen Rowe Glendon. Our ground rules are pretty simple. We will start by asking a question with Representative Denham answering first. Then the next question will be answered first by Mr. Eggman. We will alternate afterward. Some of the questions will be customized for each candidate. You will have 2 minutes to answer. John will tap the table when you have 10 seconds left. So the first question goes to Congressman Denham. Please explain your priorities or what you hope to accomplish over the next 2 years in Congress.
Well, I've been somebody who's continued to work as not only a bipartisan legislator, but somebody who works with a Valley delegation. I think it's important for Republicans and Democrats to work together on water storage, on making sure that our ag economy is vibrant. To get a highway bill done, we're going to need bipartisan support as well as a new water bill. I think because of my track record, that's one of the reasons that Nancy Pelosi has never been able to find a local candidate to run against me. The prominent Democrats in this area have supported me, and that's that bipartisan work ethic to get things done for the Valley. You've got to fight for the Valley when you have needs like water and so many other issues that are affecting our jobs and our economy.
I'm running for Congress to bring back the Valley-crat tradition to the district. My first 2 years of Congress, I hope to stop the Washington dysfunction. I want to stand up to the professional politicians that are causing that dysfunction. I want to hope to fight and stop members of Congress just working for themselves in the special interest and start working for the people that they represent. So the people that are going to elect me to go to Congress, top of their list of things they need are jobs. And in an ag economy, water is the thing that fuels that economy and that economic engine, and we need more water. We need to invest in new surface storage facilities, groundwater storage facilities, regional reclamation systems, new technologies that are going to actually help us conserve and make new water. Also creating jobs, we need to cut this regulation that's choking small business. I'm a small businessman. I got a stack of regulations on my desk this tall. We need to work both sides of the aisle to figure out ways to streamline and reform the regulation that's choking business. And in my small business, I'm a beekeeper, so I travel up and down the valley, moving my bees, pollinating crops, and I see the problems out there. I see problems with crime. I see problems with failing schools. I see I feel problems with the crumbling infrastructure. Those aren't conditions that are conducive to businesses to open in. So we need to fix these problems if we want to create an atmosphere that's going to be good for economic expansion. And we can fix those things without raising taxes. For every dollar we pay in federal income taxes as Californians, we only get 75 cents back. So for the next 2 years, I'm going to fight for that extra quarter to fix these things. We also need to streamline and simplify our tax code, for goodness sake. Congress needs to work together to create a tax code that's going to help small business compete with the big business. And we need to stop the loopholes that are for big corporations that ship our jobs overseas. We need to start giving tax credits to companies that want to expand here at home. I want to work, Democrats, Republicans alike, anyone who's interested in creating jobs, I'm going to work with them. I'll never put politics before the people of the district or ideology before our economy.
All right, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Eggman. Secret water negotiations are going on in each chamber of Congress. We worry that south of the Delta farmers will dictate how new Malones and San Luis reservoirs are managed to the detriment of OID and SSJID farmers. How do we make certain water needed here is not shipped south?
It's a big concern. Water is a very important issue, and personally issue for me. I'm a beekeeper, so the growers that I work with for the bees that pollinate their crops, they need water to grow. I'm an almond farmer as well. I need water to grow my own crop. This year I didn't get enough water. The TID allotment, my 21 inches, was done July 29th, and it certainly showed in my crop. I was down 35% in my nonpareils, and that was that way across the board in the valley. So we need to work on, water has been an issue To me, it's a failure of political leadership. Here in the drought conditions, we don't have water. Why? Because we haven't done anything. The politicians haven't built anything in over 60 years. The watershed that was built right now is built for 18 million people. What's our population in California now? 38 million and growing? We need to do more than just use water as an issue as a political football. Case in point, Congressman Denham has been attacking me on this issue of water. And instead of attacking each other, we need to work together to solve the water needs of this district, and it has to be done in a transparent and equitable fashion. We need to work together to solve this problem so myself and my neighbors never have to go through this pain of not having enough water again.
Well, first of all, it's important to have somebody at the table. There are no secret negotiations. There are negotiations between Republicans and Democrats, House and Senate. Dianne Feinstein has been a willing partner to come to a resolution between the House bill and the Senate bill. Our big challenge is not between political parties or even between the two houses. It's actually getting the president engaged on a water policy that is going to create jobs here in the Valley. But as it pertains to candidates in a campaign, you know, we have very different perspectives. I've got the support of the Farm Bureau and the irrigation districts and a lot of local farmers. He's got the support of the NRDC. Even Dianne Feinstein says that the environmentalists have not been helpful in the water debate. So when you've got the very group supporting you that has actually launched the lawsuits against each of our irrigation districts, launched the lawsuits against our water bond, want to decrease water storage rather than increase it, you know, it creates a real definition between the two of us. I'm fighting to get greater water storage. Shasta, a federal project, we should have 2 to even 10 million new acre feet of water. That's something we're negotiating with Dianne Feinstein. Sites in Temperance Flat, issues I've worked on for many years, finally getting into the water bond as well as San Luis Reservoir. But for me, where I'm fighting is all of our irrigation districts. New Melones could have 100,000 acre feet today. Not a dollar would need to be spent, just regulation changed that would allow them to have that increase. That is bipartisan, as well as working with the Oakdale Irrigation District and South San Joaquin Irrigation District on a pilot project that we've already agreed on that actually addresses the predator fish. It's ridiculous for us to continue to spend millions upon millions to save salmon when we're allowing the predator fish to come in there and eat them. So this is a pilot project that would actually help us to prove the science across the state. And up in Friant, Temperance Flat, you know, again, the NRDC has sued because of the wild and scenic area. Jim Costa and I have worked on this issue. It's a bipartisan, it's a valley issue, but when you have extremists from out of our community come in and attack us, it affects all of our jobs and all of our families.
Thank you. Okay, next question, we'll start with Congressman Denham. Turlock and Modesto irrigation districts are trying to relicense Don Pedro Dam. The State Water Resources Control Board, under Chairwoman Felicia Marcus, a former chief counsel for the NRDC, has said unimpeded flows should be 40% instead of the current 12 to 16%. In private, she agrees with Eric Wesselman of Friends of the River that it should be 60%. As a member of Congress, how will you help our districts resist this pressure from the state and the NRDC?
You know, it's going to be a battle. That's why we have a Valley Coalition, Republicans and Democrats working together for the Valley. We've got to do that. And that's not only our congressional delegation. You know, I'm working with Adam Gray and the rest of our Assembly and Senate colleagues in the state to make sure that we're addressing it both from a state as well as a federal perspective. We've got an opportunity right now. This is one of the few times in our history, in the history of the Valley, where we actually have local irrigation districts, state and federal government all working together to find a solution. And that's what it's going to take. I'm supportive of the water bond. I'm glad that that's finally moving forward, but it's going to take Republicans and Democrats in the House working with Senator Feinstein and encouraging the president to come to the table to actually have a real water solution, not only for today, not only for conveyance moving north to south and east to west, but actually to have significant water storage for future generations. We can't lose this opportunity. Our kids, our farms, our jobs, they all depend on it.
Mr. Eggman?
Again, water is what makes this agriculture economy move. And so we need to invest in these surface storage areas, and we need to get the irrigation districts the water they need. I'm against the Delta tunnels. because it doesn't create more water. It spends billions of dollars on a conveyance system that we already have. So we need to make investments with the federal government grants, like we did with the Central Valley Project, 60 years ago, to develop new dams, expand existing surface facilities, but we also need to look into, investing in groundwater storage and investing in regional reclamation systems that will actually create usable water, along with systems like regional or desaling brackish water. There are ways that we can create new water to help us meet the needs of our agriculture economy.
Okay, next question. Mr. Eggman will answer this one first. If you want to fly into this district and you don't own a plane, you have to drive about 90 minutes to an airport. Representative Denham is chair of the Transportation Committee. How can we better connect with the world?
Well, we need to work on our infrastructure, because that would enable, we keep up with our growing population, and if we want our economy to grow, we need to work on infrastructure. You can just go over to the west end of our district, the Altamont Pass, every morning at 5 a.m. You'll see a sea of taillights going over into the Bay Area, and every evening that sea of cars is coming back. It's one of the reasons we have the worst air in the whole country is right here. Our children's asthma rates are off the charts because of all our congestion and traffic. So we need to invest in our infrastructure to keep up with those needs and make moving people and products easily to do in not even just in our district, but in our state and in our country. What we don't need to do is what Congressman Denham proposed to do, was to send $6 billion of our California infrastructure money, 3.5 from the federal government and 2.5 from the state, and send it to the Northeastern Corridor rail system. Your paper, the Modesto Bee, editorialized about this, and they had every right to do so. It's absurd. We need a congressman from California to represent Californians, not New Yorkers.
A number of things. First of all, Jerry McNerney and I just got a federal grant to help out with the Stockton Airport. We need to be doing more of that on a bipartisan level, helping out our different airports. But, ACE Train is a tremendous success story here. The commuters that are able to go back and forth to the Bay Area, now go to a 49ers game on a Sunday, is tremendous. We've got to make sure that extends over into Modesto, then Turlock, and then elsewhere. One of the ways that we do that is a passenger rail reauthorization bill, which we just passed out of the committee. Not only bipartisan, I worked every member, not only on the Republican side, but the Democrat side, to make sure we had a unanimous vote addressing the rail needs across the nation, to get rail moving quicker, to get passengers home quicker, and to make sure that Amtrak is running much, much more efficiently. But I make no secrets about California high-speed rail. I'm against it because it has tripled in cost. It has grown beyond what the voters approved. It's now knocking down buildings and dividing farms. And while we've had a conversation about the Bee misquoting me on this, first of all, you could never take state dollars, nor would I advocate to move those anywhere. But secondly, I just very strongly believe that a proposition that was passed by voters either should go back to voters if that project is going to change, or it ought to be stopped altogether. But to spend $100 billion that we don't have on misguided priorities, I think is the wrong direction. We should be using what delicate resources we have to fix our water supply. But we're going to be doing a highway bill. We're going to finish our work on the passenger rail reauthorization bill. Under the highway bill, California would receive 20% more money. We'd also receive money for bridge funding. The 7th Street Bridge is ridiculous that we have commuters going across that every single day, but we don't even allow school buses to go on there because it's falling apart. So we've got some big infrastructure needs that we need to fix here locally. Starts with the highway bill and the passenger rail reauthorization bill.
Thank you. Okay, next question. We'll start with Congressman Denham. You've moved around a little bit from Salinas to Atwater to Turlock as your districts have changed. Candidate Eggman was a resident of Kingsburg as recently as last October when the Hanford Sentinel did a lovely story about your family. Yet both of you talk about being local. Please define what local means.
Well, I've been a Turlock resident for 4 years. The Bee asked me if I was going to move once I was elected to Congress, and yes, I did. You know, I've been in Atwater. I still grow almonds there. My kids went to school there. But when I was elected to Congress, not only was it difficult to continue to farm on a daily basis when I'm going back and forth to Washington, D.C., but it was time to downsize into a smaller home in Turlock. But it's been a great transition in our local community. It was something that I had told the voters and the Bee that I would do. I stick by my promises.
Yeah, indeed, I'm a beekeeper, so I travel throughout the valley. I share my time between the South Valley and the North Valley, but most of the time I spend here in Turlock on the farm. It's the farm I grew up on. It's the farm I still run today. I love the community. I know the community. I understand how the community works, and I understand the issues that are holding our community back because they're the same problems I solve on my farm every day. Indeed, Congressman Denham is from Southern California. He's started his political career in Salinas, and he's run for office all over the state. And as he says, he lives in his family lives in Northern Virginia. So I would, put my connection to this district against his any day.
So would you move to D.C. if you won election?
If I'm right here in Turlock. That's where I spend the majority of my time.
No, but if you were elected, would you move to D.C.?
No, I would stay here in Turlock.
You would stay here and
Yeah.
commute back and forth?
Yep.
Okay. And does your family live with you here in Turlock, or are they in Kingsburg?
I have a home in Kingsburg. My wife's
That's
a
where
flight
they live?
attendant, and she commutes to L.A. out of FAT.
Okay, next question. We'll start with candidate Eggman. Neil Kashkari calls high-speed rail the crazy train, which is funny even if you support the concept. Representative Denham has been clear about his position. Candidate Eggman, not so much that we can find. Explain your positions on high-speed rail, or, if you prefer, the crazy train.
Well, high-speed rail is a complicated issue. We have to remember that the good people of California voted for it, but what they voted for was an apple. What they got was, an orange, or maybe more accurately, a sour lemon. So for the project to move forward, I think the state has to figure out a way to get it back on budget and on track. But as we said before, we need to do something about the congestion in our valley and our state. It's polluting the air, and it makes it difficult to do business. So we need to look for ways to invest in infrastructure that it's going to help keep up with our growing population and economy.
Do you support the project in its current form?
The form that was voted on.
It is right now.
It needs to get back on budget and on track.
No. I think I've been very clear on California high-speed rail. No, I don't support it in its current form. I don't think we can afford it. I think the voters would vote it down if it did go back to them. But ultimately, this is about trust in government. You pass an initiative, voters support it. You better stick to what that initiative says and does. Right now, we're spending federal dollars on this project at any cost. At a certain point, the state has to pay its matching share. And if we don't have it, that money comes from our education system. It comes from areas of government that we can't afford to lose money on. And I think it not only puts us in a difficult situation, but it's an unproven technology that the ridership numbers continue to change. Talking to high-speed rail companies around the globe, they don't want to invest here. You wouldn't invest in something that the ridership numbers didn't match out. So if it gets built, which I still don't think that it will, but if it did, we would be stuck with that ongoing subsidy, taking money away from our schools, taking money away from our law enforcement. It is misguided priorities that I think will leave a black eye on the Central Valley.
All right, next question. We'll start with Congressman Denham. President Obama can't seem to get us out of Iraq. Do you support his plan to deal with ISIS, or do you have a better plan?
First of all, he doesn't have a plan. I support his current efforts. Certainly, I voted for his request for funds. I believe we have to do something. We have Christians in our community that have relatives, Armenian and Syrians, in the Middle East that are being attacked right now. We've got to make sure that we're addressing those from that perspective, but we also have Americans that are being murdered. We have ISIL that is now saying that they're going to launch attacks on U.S. soil. So yes, we absolutely have to fight them back. I'm looking forward to a real plan. When I served in Desert Storm, I'm familiar with that area. But when I served, we had not only a plan, but we had a set of goals, we had a strategy, we had an exit strategy. That's not only important for every man and woman that's serving in the uniform, that's important for the American public to get behind a president and to have a strategy that the country can get behind, as well as our allies. So I'm looking forward to having a real strategy, a real plan. He did lay out a speech today at the UN, which I have not seen yet, but I'm hopeful that that brings more allies into this with us. The threat of ISIL is real, not only to the Middle East region, but around the globe. And the threats, if they're not going to stop, as Americans, we need to stop them.
We have to understand what ISIS is. It's a network of mass murdering thugs. It's a splinter group from Al-Qaeda that split from Al-Qaeda because Al-Qaeda wasn't murderous or extreme enough for them. They are a threat to the United States. They've killed our citizens. They've killed Christians and other minority groups in Iraq. They're a threat, and we do need to do what we can do to try to stop them. I support targeted airstrikes to degrade the organization and take out their ISIS safe havens. But I think the solution has to come through diplomacy. The solution can't be just a United States solution. It has to be a global solution. We need to work out and reach out to other nation states and get them engaged with this conflict. I don't think we need another ground war in the Middle East. I'm certainly against that. But I am for targeted airstrikes and using every diplomatic option that we have at our capacity to stop this threat. I've talked to some of my growers from the Assyrian community, have family over there, and they're very concerned.
Okay, next question. This question is just for candidate Eggman. You've never held elected office. Why start your political career with a run for Congress? Why not city council or some other local elected position?
Well, Congress is full of professional politicians, and look how well they're doing right now. We have a do-nothing Congress over there. I haven't held elective office, but I think I'm what the founders had in mind when they came up with our representative form of democracy. From jobs to water to education to infrastructure, I'm interested in improving my community. I'm not merely interested in exercising the same tired political games that Congressman Denham's been engaging in for the past 4 years. I understand the issues holding our economy back here in this ag community. Because it's the same problems that I'm solving on my farm every day. Look, Congressman Denham's not a bad guy, I'm sure. I hear nice things about him. He's just done a bad job representing us. He's failed us. He likes to talk a nice bipartisan talk, but he doesn't walk that same bipartisan walk when it comes to taking votes in D.C. His over 90% party line voting record proves my point. He shut down the government and cost us American jobs and hurt our economy. He hasn't been the independent voice that we need. I see problems in my community and I want to solve them, and that's why I'm running for Congress.
So you never considered running for any other office? You just decided to start with Congress? You have never considered running for city council or serving on a planning commission or?
No, but when my Mom, I was raised to, step up and solve problems when you can. And I see all these problems that are facing not just our district, but our whole state. I see this up close and personal. I'm ground zero, boots on the ground. And I know the power of the federal government can solve these problems. And it's out of frustration that I want to run for the office, because I see effective local leaders. I see effective people at the state ledge level. But in Congress, all I see is dysfunction.
Okay, next question is just for you, Jeff. You voted to preserve what many called a disastrous government shutdown. What did that accomplish, and would you support such a move again?
Well, I think you're misinterpreting what actually happened. There was a vote in Congress. I took the same position that President Obama, then Senator Obama, took when he was in office, that a continuous resolution without a plan is no plan at all. This president campaigned and said $8 trillion, the entire amount of debt assumed by every other president, was unpatriotic. Now we're at $18 trillion? America needs to wake up and understand that this is a huge issue. Now, I voted for some of these continuous resolutions and these appropriation bills. I think that it's important that we continue to keep government moving, but both parties need to come up with a plan. Both parties can agree that Social Security is going bankrupt, that Medicare is already there. Then both parties need to agree that it is time to come together on a full solution, working with the president on what that solution is. I'm just looking for a plan, and was looking for the president and his leadership to come up with one at that time. We're still pushing to that on the House side of things, and I'm hopeful that the 365 bills that we have in the Senate today, most of which are bipartisan bills, will actually move right after the election and get some of those jobs created that will help us to reduce that debt as well.
Thank you. All right, next question we'll start with Congressman Denham. The Enlist Act provides an avenue for illegal immigrants to prove their patriotism and dedication to the nation, even at the risk of their own lives. Yet Republicans have voted down this amendment, saying it will turn the military into a visa mill. Why will you be best positioned to help make this the law of the land?
Well, they didn't vote it down. We didn't actually get it included into the Armed Services Bill. It's an important bill. We're continuing to build more and more co-authors from a bipartisan perspective. Look, I served our country for 16 years. I served with immigrants that gained their citizenship while serving in the military. I think this is an easy way to at least start the discussion and allow those that are graduating from our high schools today, the best and brightest that the military wants to recruit, ought to be able to bring them in and to address their citizenship at the same time. But this immigration debate has gone on for 30 years now. It's multi-generational. It is an issue that both parties have punted on. Democrats, when they had control of the House, when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House, had the majority in the Senate, and had the presidency, this wasn't an issue. It's time for both parties to wake up. I'm going to be a leader in the House, continue to lead on this issue, and educate both parties on why this is such an important issue. To have border security first, to make sure that we have an E-Verify system, a guest worker program, and that we address the 11.5 million that are here today in a way that addresses from following the rule of law to actually get them through a visa system and then ultimately have a chance at citizenship.
How are you going to get your colleagues to go along with it next time this comes up?
I'm going to work with both sides of the aisle, as I've continued to do. Yeah, I supported the Democrat bill because I think it had the important safeguards in there. But Speaker Boehner has continued to say that this is something that we are going to address. I've got to be the guy who continues to drive it, not only in my conference, but in the House, along with the Senate, and get the president really engaged on the issue.
I support the Enlist Act, but bigger than that, I support comprehensive immigration reform. My plan calls for a pathway to citizenship, or for otherwise, lawful residence, a strong guest worker program, and increased border security. It would help our economy grow and reduce our deficit. I'm so happy that Congressman Denham has signed on, and with that I support the House bill that he was talking about, H.R. 15. That's a big step for him. He's come a long way since a few years ago when he used to support the Arizona Paper Please Law bill. And certainly a long way from when he was in the state legislature when he voted against the California DREAM Act. But we need to, he says he's a leader on this bill and this issue, but he won't even sign the discharge petition. That's a device that's in the House that calls the bill up for a vote, regardless of the actions taken by Nancy Pelosi or John Boehner. So Jeff Denham says he's a leader on this issue, but he won't sign a discharge petition. I think that gives cover to his conference for members of his conference in taking a risky vote. So Congressman Denham likes to make a lot of noise on the issue, but all he's shown is a political expedient calculation. He hasn't done anything to bring about a real reform, which is a shame because, the votes are there. If someone would show some real political courage and leadership, we could pass immigration reform tomorrow, improving people's lives and improving our economy.
Thank you. All right, next question will start with candidate Eggman. Most Republicans have taken a taxpayer protection pledge promoted by Grover Norquist. Yet locally, Republicans and Democrats are forced to ask their constituents to increase their own sales taxes to pay for roads, public safety, and other basics. You both live in Turlock. Are you voting for Measure B, and should Oakdale voters approve Measure Y?
Well, I plan on voting for it, but in a bigger scope, at a federal level. We need to get our financial house in order. We need to get our deficit under control. We need to do something about our runaway deficit. And that starts with making sacrifices and hard choices. But there's a difference between making a hard choice and a wrong choice. And balancing our budget on the backs of our seniors and the most vulnerable citizens among us, like Congressman Denham advocates, is certainly the wrong choice. Congress needs to lead by example. That's why I have a no perks pledge. It says that if members of Congress can't pass a budget, they should not get paid. Or if they choose to shut down the government, they shouldn't get paid either. We also need to get rid of these ridiculous health care and pensions for life as well. And let's get rid of some of these perks of office. Members-only gyms and barbershops that regular folk can't use. We don't need that as members of Congress. But we also need to cut big-ticket items, too. The Government Accountability Office says that we waste hundreds of millions of dollars a year on duplication between agencies. It's time to get serious about cutting the red tape and duplication out of our government bureaucracy. We also need to look at the bloated defense budget. We need a strong defense, but we need a smart national defense. It's time to quit spending hundreds of billions of dollars on planes that will never fly just because some defense contractor lobbyist says that we should. Let's get serious about cutting the waste out of our defense budget. And speaking of waste, let's cut the waste out of Medicare and Social Security. We need to get our financial house in order. Congressman Denham likes to say he's about spending cuts, but he's not willing to make any sacrifices of his own office. And he's given tax cuts to millionaires like him and himself instead of getting serious.
We don't both live in Turlock. This isn't a big picture, something I'm going to talk about. Yes, I'm voting for B because I live in Turlock. I think that it's important to have those matching funds. If we're going to put Stanislaus County forward, we've got to have the matching funds to be able to compete with the other projects that are moving around the state. So I am supportive of it. I'll be voting for it, as well as addressing some of these other crazy issues. We passed a 20% cut to our own budgets. I took the no pay, voted for the no pay when we have no budget. I mean, some of these things seem pretty ridiculous. Those are the things, the talking points out of Washington, D.C. and Nancy Pelosi, the things that they're trying to run from a national perspective that make no sense at all. I mean, he's talking about getting rid of the pension that all federal employees have. You're going to take that away from the union members of every federal employee across the nation. There's no difference in the pension. Not understanding the issues coming out of Washington, D.C., the barbershop that everybody that works in the Capitol uses, staff, visitors. I don't know much about this barbershop other than everybody that visits goes there. So these special perks. One thing I did want to address that he continues to try to attack me on, I've never brought it up to the B, but during that time when I said that I had to turn my pay back, I didn't think that we should be receiving pay during a time when government wasn't operating. Under the Constitution, they force us to take that pay. I immediately wrote a check to the Salvation Army to help homeless veterans in my community, in this community, to make sure those that have served our country are not homeless anymore. So the Salvation Army, if you want to go visit, it's a great place to donate, but it's something that I did with that pay during that time.
All right, next question, and we'll start with Congressman Denham. I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask your opponent a question.
I really don't have any questions. I just met him for the first time today. We're 41 days out, and who will you vote for? Renteria or Valadeo?
Renteria. She's a strong Latina that's going to represent the good folks of the district.
Okay. All right, Candidate Eggman, here's your chance to ask the congressman a question.
As a father of 2 daughters, Congressman, you co-sponsored a bill that changed the terms of rape to forcible rape. Can you tell me why you did that, and what's the difference between rape and forcible rape?
You know, you've tried to, I've seen the mail that you've sent out, and it's interesting how you try to come up with these different issues, whether it's the Democrat budget that raised $6 trillion or the Violence Against Women Act, where I supposedly was opposing considering it before I pushed it and voted for it. Look, you know, I'm somebody that has a daughter myself. I think that it's important to preserve and make sure that the rights of women are there for every woman across the nation. I mean, some of these things that get brought up during campaigns are pretty ridiculous. My voting record speaks for itself. I pushed the Violence Against Women Act. I pushed it out of the House. We actually had it go back to the Senate and signed into law. It's right there in black and white.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our pre-planned questions. I'm going to ask the rest of the editorial board if they have some follow-up questions or any other questions.
I would like to ask a little bit more about water and the infrastructure changes. The federal government was asked to put a lot of money into the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. That plan could see the impact of us losing water from the tributaries to the San Joaquin to the Delta, and that has been a general concern of a lot of the irrigation districts here. What do we have to do to make sure that doesn't happen? Do we have to scuttle the plan, or can it be altered? And I believe, is it Congressman Denham? So candidate Eggman.
We need to have Democrats and Republicans work together to tweak the plan that's going to both get us the water that we need and protect the Bay Delta. We need to have enough push going down to keep the saline out of the Bay Delta, but we also have to take you know, the necessary water that we're going to need to provide the farmers downstream. But if we endanger that whole Bay Delta with saline, that's going to, you know, destroy drinking water and ag water. We need to protect, you know, that Bay Delta, but also provide our economy the fuel it needs to grow.
I assume the BDCP is going to be altered. You know, with greater water storage, it will change the dynamics throughout the valley. You know, certainly if the water bond passes, which it looks like it will, you know, that will change water storage as well as passing a bill from the federal level, including Shasta. So I think the increase through Delta flows make parts of the BDCP, the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, unneeded. Tunnels will not be needed if we have the type of water storage that is being proposed in both the water bond as well as on the federal level. So I would expect to see changes, but I think in the short term we've got to make some immediate changes. I mean, right now you go to the banks of the Stanislaus River in the spring to see the pulse flows that are almost overflowing the banks and flooding fields. That's water that we could have utilized this summer. So there's some decisions that are being made that aren't being made based on sound science, pulse flows being one of them that has pushed hundreds of thousands of acre-feet of water out to the ocean at times that we didn't need to push it out.
You know, because of the economy here, there's a lot of poverty, unemployment, and there is really a lot of crimes. Crimes are really increasing. Is there any way we can get more funds from Congress to come more to Valley for that purpose? Because we have lack of police, and, you know, and other social services which can help with the crime. Is that any way we can get that?
Congressman Denham first.
I would say the greatest increase in law enforcement funding, at least from the federal government, is going to be some of the grants that we continue to fight for and work for. I'm proud to have Sheriff Christensen as well as the State Sheriff's Association supporting me because I've been working on those grants and working on those solutions. But some of the biggest solutions to help out our community would be immigration reform, to get people out of the shadows, have them willing to go to law enforcement and talk about the crimes and the issues that are affecting each different community. Having background checks, that is part of the HR 15 as well as other immigration bills. Those are issues that will help to have a safer community and have that community that's coming out of the shadows also address those that are dealing drugs, those that are committing crimes, and actually being able to work with law enforcement and cleaning up our own communities.
Yeah, because of the terrible economy, the tax base can't support basic public safety. And I'm talking fire and police. The violent crime rate in Modesto is 70% higher than the national average because our police are stretched too thin, and the criminals certainly know about it. So we need to work with grant programs from the federal government. And we also need to enlist the help of federal agencies to work with our local law enforcement. There was a good pilot program that they just did in Stockton just past year. They got, I think over 300 guns off the streets and arrested over 100 felons. That was done through the cooperation of local law enforcement and the federal law enforcement agencies. We need to have more of that here, certainly in our district.
My question is about the No Child Left Behind Act that has sort of just languished. It is the federal funding bill for education, and there doesn't seem to be any motion between the two parties to bring their very different versions back together and get some sense into that federal formula for funding, no matter which path you take. So I guess we're on Mr. Eggman.
Oh, well, and I'm a proud product of public schools. I graduated R-Turlock High, graduated Fresno State. And education is how an individual achieves their hopes and dreams. And if they can do that, not only improves their lives, but of course, the community that they live in. So we need to look at ways of bringing our K-12 system into the 21st century. But it's important, though, I think any federal program has to be, they can steer education, but I think it has to be balanced with local district autonomy and input too. It's the local districts that are going to be able to design a curriculum that's really going to work for their students. It can't be a one-size-fits-all system. But beyond K through 12, we need to look at, I have two daughters about to enter college, and along with millions of other Americans, we need to look at the exploding cost of higher education. Student loan debt is the second biggest debt we have in the country. It's second only to mortgages. We need to do something about the interest rates that our students, our jobless students, are paying right now. I support a plan that would tie student loan rates to the same rate we're lending these big banks, and I also support letting folks or people refinance their student loan debt. We need to also work on certificate and training programs. So not everyone wants to go to college, but we need to create more aggressively, not only in the community college level, but standalone certificate programs that will teach the young folks or people that want to re-enter the school and workforce for a different skill. Let's get California residents the skills that they need that will grow our economy. And let's enlist the help of local businesses. They know what skills they need. That's one of the biggest obstacles of a small businessman right now, is finding a skilled workforce. So let's get them involved in the education. Let's make them a partner.
Thank you.
I think part of the frustration by states as well as local communities is that every president comes in with its own plan. And then most presidents don't fund that plan. So No Child But Left Behind, as that was being implemented, I heard from the California Teachers Association and others about the goals of the plan, but it was short on funding. Now we have a new president. This president has a race to the top. New plan without the funding. Common Core moving in as well. We put a lot of criteria out there without having the funding to back it up. So it is a local issue. It is certainly a state-funded issue. But if the federal government is going to come in and dictate based on a new president's plan, then they need to be able to do that with the funding to back it up. On the higher ed side, not only do we pass the ESEA bill on the lower ed, but on the higher ed, exactly what is being talked about is what we passed. We passed the Bill Clinton plan to actually tie our student loan rates to the market so that you wouldn't have these extraordinary increases, and make sure that you could actually refinance student loans. So that's what we passed. That's what was signed into law. We're working to extend that even further.
I have a question for you, too. Recently, the political landscape of America has taken a turn, I think, for the worse. Free speech is now considered money. And I want to know, what is both of your positions on receiving money, large amounts of money, from, say, back east or out of state? What do you think about that?
Receiving money from...
What is your position on Citizens United and the way politics now is controlled by out-of-state money? What is your position on that particular item?
This one's to me first? Yes. You know, I've always seen some difficult races here in the Valley, some expensive races with a lot of outside money, millions of dollars coming from outside of our community or outside of our state. We do a lot of local fundraisers, a lot of tri-tip dinners, a lot of small events to help us to raise money right here in the local area. But I do get support from some of the political action committees. The Farm Bureau is a perfect example. Western Growers Association, you know, a lot of the different PACs, even some of the labor PACs that have supported my position on different issues. So I believe that labor, farm, many of the different groups that have interests here in the Valley should be able to have a voice as well. But we focus our efforts here on the local area that I represent, and that's where we raise most of our money to be able to actually go out and talk about some of these issues that come in from Washington, D.C., made up things that I've got to ultimately refute, and then actually talk about issues like water, like high-speed rail, issues that we're going to continue to spend money to educate voters on the different positions. We are very different. We have different issues. We have different positions on the issues. It's time for the voters to be able to hear that.
Yeah, indeed, there's way too much money in politics, believe me. That was a big eye-opening experience when I started running for Congress. I'm like, really? This is how you do it? And I'm certainly against Citizens United, and I'm for the American Anti-Corruption Act and the Americans for the People Act. But indeed, Congressman Denham likes to criticize and attack me for taking money from you know, NRDC or some other groups. But you know, Congressman Denham has taken money from the insurance companies and then voted to let them charge women more than they do for men. Congressman Denham has voted or taken money from big Wall Street bankers and then voted to turn over our seniors' Social Security benefits to them. Congressman Denham has taken money from Santa Barbara Indian tribes and then facilitated their a real estate deal. I mean, Congressman Denham has even taken money from an indicted child molester in Bakersfield and refused to return the check. And so there is so much money in politics, it's ridiculous. I'm the only candidate in this race that embraces true campaign finance reform. And that's what we need if we're going to have the people really be able to examine the issues without all this mountains of money, you know, altering the true visions of what we plan to have for the future.
So you'll reject the $1.1 million that Nancy Pelosi has bought TV ads for you? You'll reject that money?
You know, you're so interested and excited about tying me to Nancy Pelosi. That's all I hear.
You supported this effort to not have this money that is floating into your district. Will you reject the $1.1 million that she's doing? Because I'm spending my money that I've raised.
And
everybody sees exactly where my money comes from. We raise it from the community. We'll continue to do that. But
well, I tell you what, Congressman, you're so you know, intent on tying me to Nancy Pelosi. You know, I hear it in your ads all the time, and you know, you've run for office all over the state. If you're so intent on beating Nancy Pelosi, maybe the next congressional seat you should run for is hers. What I'm interested in doing is winning this seat so I can get busy to represent the people of this district, not Nancy Pelosi. I want to represent the people that are not right next door to me in my office space right here. But there's no one next door because our economy is so bad.
I think we're out of time on this one, but we're good. Okay, I think what we'll do now is we'll give each of you 2 minutes to make a final statement. So we'll start with Mr. Eggman.
I'm running for Congress to bring back the Valley Crat tradition. Last election, you gave a conflicted endorsement of the congressman and said, who is the real Jeff Denham and who will he be if reelected in 2013 and 14? Well, 2 years later, we know the answer. Congressman Denham is someone who votes for himself, votes for his special interest friends, and votes with the most extreme elements of his party. His votes have hurt our economy, killed American jobs, and damaged our reputation globally. We need to work to stop all this Washington insider political theater, what's going on here. I understand this Valley economy. This is the community I grew up in. This is the community that I love, and I'm ready to serve it. Look, I graduated R-Turlock High, where I wrestled and played football on Friday nights. I've even been on a few pages of the Modesto Bee. But I talk to folks all over, and I tell them, you know, if you like the way Washington works, then go ahead and vote for Congressman Denham. But the folks that I talk to are ready for a change. They're ready to get something done. They're tired of a do-nothing Congress. You know, 12 years ago when my mom passed away, I came back to the family farm to help out my dad, because that's how I was raised. Step up and solve the problem if you can. And now I see all these problems in our community, and nobody's solving them. And that's why I'm running for Congress, because we need to start getting things done. I would be humbled and honored for your endorsement and also your vote. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity once again. As you know, I'm a local farmer, somebody who's fought for our country, 16 years in the Air Force through Desert Storm and Somalia, active duty and reserves. I'm somebody that leads by example. When I was in the state legislature, I gave back 5% of my pay. I thought that was important. Over $50,000 while I was in the state legislature, I gave back because I wanted to lead by example, which is exactly the same thing I've done in Congress. When Congress had the horrific shutdown, I actually donated my pay to local veterans that were homeless. I thought that was an important way to lead by example. But I think the best way that I can lead by example is actually working with others, making sure that we have Democrats and Republicans working together, have a Valley coalition that fights for the Valley so that we can actually get things done, like the Farm Bill. For once, we had a Californian on the Farm Bill Conference Committee, and not only do we get a Farm Bill passed, but we got good reforms for California, making it a California Farm Bill, dealing with our milk pricing, dealing with things like pest prevention, as well as research within our higher ed system. So getting bipartisan solutions, leading the charge on immigration. That's something we've got to do, Republican or Democrat, no matter who the administration is, it's time to get it done. A secure border, following the rule of law, making sure that we're addressing the 11.5 million here today, as well as having a guest worker program and an E-Verify system. It's got to be a top-to-bottom approach to all aspects of immigration reform, and it's going to take bipartisan work. But don't just take my word for it. You know, I have the support of the Farm Bureau and the farmers in this community. I have the support of and recognition of groups like LULAC that honored me as being their Legislator of the Year from a national level. These are groups that are well ingrained in our community. They believe in me. They believe in me fighting to make sure that we are doing things in a bipartisan, not just a bipartisan way, but more importantly, from a Valley perspective, fighting for Valley needs on water, immigration, farming issues, as well as tax reform. Again, thank you, and I'd appreciate your support.
I'd like to thank both of you. I thought we had a great conversation today, and I know it's a lot of time commitment to come in here, and I appreciate having you both come in here and having this discussion. So on behalf of the editorial board of the Modesto Bee, I want to thank you for being here and wish you well in your campaigns. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.